The Federation of Asian Biotech Associations, or FABA, has provided a platform for academia, industry, and government to come together and interact with various activities such as distinguished lectures, seminars, workshops, and conferences. BioAsia, a global biobusiness forum, the flagship event of FABA, is being organized in Hyderabad annually for the past 18 years. In addition, similar events are being organized in various countries by the country chapters of FABA. FABA Academy empowers the students in life sciences with career guidance and skill development activities. FABA Academy has conducted 34 webinars and 9 workshops, online and hands-on, on topics of interest to the academy and the industry. FABA Entrepreneurship, aimed at promoting the startup ecosystem, was officially launched on August 18, 2022, with its inaugural event on venture capital Biotech Startup Connect, or Whale Tank, to raise awareness of big ticket investments in health tech startups. Overall, FABA was formed to drive innovation with a vision to promote entrepreneurship, provide academic excellence, and help build industry connect. Know more about FABA at www.biofaba.org.in. I'm just taking a moment to share a link to follow the FABA LinkedIn page. Just one moment, please. I'm just going to share that in the chat box. Yeah. Now, as we talk about RX Propellant is a life science infrastructure platform encompassing real estate, scientific networking, and talent nurturing. We are under the Actis umbrella, a leading global investor in sustainable infrastructure headquartered in London, UK. Established with a vision to develop world-class life science clusters in India, RX Propellant currently has footprint in Hyderabad and Bengaluru, with an active portfolio of over 5 million square feet. We have 7 facilities in Genome Valley, Hyderabad, which are designed to complement the existing ecosystem in the city and serve as an integrated infrastructure solution for research and manufacturing. In Bengaluru, we are developing a brand new cluster called BLR District in Attibelu. If you'd like to know more about the work that we do, please visit our website, www.rxpropellant.in. And like I did with FABA, I'm also going to be sharing with you a link to follow our page on LinkedIn. Just one moment, please. There we go. So GV Connect is an RX Propellant initiative which aims to unify the different elements in the Genome Valley cluster and foster a greater collaborative effort within. We are pleased to be collaborating on this relevant topic. With that, I would now introduce to you our moderator for today, Dr. Uday Saxena. Dr. Saxena is currently a co-founder of a startup biotech company, Reagene Innovations. He has held executive and leadership positions at Park Davis in Ann Arbor, Atherogenics in Atlanta as Vice President for Drug Discovery, Dr. Reddy's Laboratories in the capacity of Chief Scientific Officer for US and India, and Carriers Therapeutics as CEO. He has a PhD in biochemistry from Memorial University and postdoctoral training at Columbia University. He served as a review member and mentor to several DVD panels, as well as IKP and CSIR programs, and is an executive council member of FABA. He's a well-known speaker on international and national platforms and a recipient of academic and industry honors. Ladies and gentlemen, I hand you over to Dr. Uday Saxena. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Satish. Beautiful introduction. And thank you for your generosity in introducing me as well. You know, it's RX Propellant, I mean, what you're doing for this outreach for the pharma industry is very commendable, I think. So I look forward to FABA collaborating with you more and potentially doing other workshops related to pharma industry. So thank you very much, Satish. So good afternoon, everybody. First of all, I must apologize. Normally, the panel moderator is supposed to send out an email a few days ahead of time saying, thank you so much for accepting, and this is what we are going to be discussing. But unfortunately, last 2 weeks, actually last 2 months, have been a lot of up and down for me. I was not able to do it. I don't have the excuse of saying I was in Singapore or Kenya, but I just didn't have the time to do it. So my apologies, but we're greatly honored that all of you have taken out time from your busy schedule to be here. We know how important your time is, so we will stick to our schedule. We'll sharply close by 6 o'clock, no later than 6 p.m. So apologies, and really thank you very much, and welcome to the panel discussion. Just as a way of letting you know how the discussion is going to go, I will first of all ask each of you a separate question, and you will, of course, respond to it. And the whole thing will go as not as like a speech, but more like a dialogue. So, for example, Parul, if she says, I like to do it this way, I will challenge her back and say, why not this way? So I hope to keep this a very engaging format so that the registrants and people who are online get the best of insights from all of you. So it'll be a back and forth dialogue, one question each to begin. And then the second question will be a common question to you, all of you. And then I would really I've already just informed Professor Reddy and Dr. Ajit Kamath also to give their insights, because they have thought about this very profoundly as much as anybody else. So they will also give their insights. And the last half an hour or so, we will reserve for any take-home messages that I will try and derive, as well as questions from the floor, which is the people who have registered. So let me first introduce all the panelists. As I said, we have a very, very high caliber panelists who are here with us. I will introduce you in the order of the bios that have been given to me. First of all, let me please welcome and introduce Mr. Surendra Reddy. Hello, sir. How are you?
He's not available right now, sir. He may join.
Okay. Then the next one, thank you, Divya. The next one on my list is Dr. Padmanabhan. Hello, sir. How are you? Can you hear me, sir?
So he has to.
Yeah. Hi, Padmanabhan here. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, you're welcome. Dr. Padmanabhan is Vice President and Group Head HR at MSN Laboratories. He is a human resource fraternity with experience from diverse industries like engineering services, hardware, pharma, EPC. He has developed functional expertise in areas of strategic business support, performance management, talent development, crisis management, and HR process excellence. Before joining MSN Laboratories, he was General Manager HR at Larsen & Toubro, and has professional experience ranging from Indian companies to global multinational corporations. So once again, welcome, sir, and I will come back to you in a minute.
Yeah, thank you, doctor. Thank you so much for a very great introduction.
Sure. Next on my list shown here is Nikhil. Nikhil is, hey, Nikhil, how are you?
Hi there, all good.
All good. Okay. All right. Nikhil is a vice president in the lead advisory vertical of Ernst & Young. Everybody knows what Ernst & Young is. He has over 7 years of experience in investment banking advisory. He focuses on the South India market. Over the years, Nikhil has been part of successful deal closures aggregating to more than $500 million in transaction value across sectors. He is a graduate from IIT Madras with a BTech in chemical engineering and has an MBA from XLRI Jamshedpur. And he lives in Hyderabad itself. In fact, that's how I kind of got to know him. Very impressive person that I thought should be on the panel to represent what, from an investment side, what they think about the potential of collaborations and skilling between industry and academia. So thank you for being here, Nikhil.
Thank you for the kindness, Uday.
Sure. Next on my list is Dr. P. Ratnakar, who happens also to be a very important player in FABA. He's the Secretary General of FABA. And in his daytime, he's Vice President and Head Solutions and Offerings, Healthcare and Life Sciences at Persistent Systems, also in Hyderabad. He is a seasoned professional with 3 decades of experience in strategic leadership in life sciences. He's a governing body member of Jawaharlal Nehru Technological University, JNTU, and nurtures innovation entrepreneurship in scaling technologies for life sciences incubators at BioNest, University of Hyderabad, where, by the way, I'm located. Is instrumental in fostering partnerships between FABA's academic, industrial, and governmental members and establishing a thriving life sciences powerhouse at FABA. He happens to be a very good friend of mine. And so, Ratnakar Garu, a very warm welcome and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Dr. Uday. Wonderful to have you as the moderator for this session. So looking forward to this discussion with you.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Next up on my list is Dr. Parul Ganju. She is a scientist entrepreneur and the co-founder and CEO of Ahammune Biosciences, a drug discovery company working to develop new treatments of skin depigmenting diseases such as vitiligo. At Ahammune, Parul leads R&D, product development, and investor relations. After completing her PhD in skin biology from NIA in Delhi, she was a DST Inspire. This is a very prestigious fellowship, actually. DST Inspire faculty at CSIR Institute of Genomics and Integrative Biology. She has extensive experience in the area of dermatology with specialization in vitiligo pathophysiology. She has unique insights into development of animal models for dermatological conditions to aid in drug discovery. Thank you so much, Parul. I know you were overseas, and thank you so much for being here. Really look forward to your insights.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you so much, Dr. Uday.
Sure.
Thank you.
The next one on my list is Dr. Venkata Ramana. Hi, Dr. Venkata Ramana. How are you, sir? Can you hear us, sir?
Hear you.
Okay. I
he's
think,
there, he's there.
yeah, well, yeah. Thank you so much for being here. I know we just met, and thank you so much for your time. He currently holds a position of CSO in Reliance Life Sciences, Mumbai. He has obtained his PhD in biochemistry from CFTRI, Mysore. He worked in University College of London, UK for his postdoc research, spent 7 years at Shanta Biotech, Hyderabad, developing recombinant hepatitis B vaccine and other recombinant proteins. So for the past 22 years in Reliance, he's engaged in developing recombinant proteins, monoclonal antibodies, and cell and gene therapy products. Excellent, Dr. Ramana. Thank you so much for your time, and really look forward to your participation here now. So,
pleasure to be part of this. Thank you.
Sure. Divya, do we have the one panelist who was going to join late, or should we begin?
Please begin. Please
should
begin.
we begin? Okay. If and when he joins, we can go back. So I'm just going to ask questions in the sequence that I see. This is normally what we do on my screen, and it happens to be Dr. Padmanabhan is up first. And second is Nikhil. Nikhil, so you're going to be next, and then Dr. Ratnakar, Dr. Parul, and then finally we have Dr. Ramana. So that's going to be the sequence in which I ask questions. And as I said, it will be engaging. Just let me go back and so Dr. Padmanabhan, you are from MSN, correct?
Yes.
Yes. You know, MSN, of course, is an extremely well-known company, which we all know. And so I guess as a giant in the generics industry, what value do you see in interacting with academia? Because generic companies per se do incremental innovation, which is your business strategy, and that's perfectly fine. You know, we are world leaders in generics, but what value do you think there could be a collaboration between MSN, such as your company, and academic researchers around the country or in the world? And how do you think they can help you?
Okay. Doctor, first, thank you so much for making me part of this panel, and appreciate, welcome all the other panel members. Sir, Dr. MSN predominantly is in the manufacturing of generics. We are also into, started recently with the, CDMO business, and we are also into biologics. We are also into peptides. So we are growing up faster in other areas too. In this process, even in generics, I think, the kind of a competition the generics industry poses, there is always a scope for continuous improvement. From the perspective of chemistry, from the perspective of engineering, from the perspective of principles of operational excellence. I think this is where we need to continuously connect with the academia, from the perspective of understanding what's happening new in the industry, to train our people in those spaces where we are having a lot of gap. For example, a person who done chemical engineering 10 years before and a person who does recently has a huge variance. So it is continuously, engineering and science is growing at a faster rate, more than the proliferation of the mobiles could do. I think we being the second largest industry in India, there's a lot of scope for us to contribute. Even today, I mean, all generic companies, we are trying to move forward, integrate forward in the business, like formulation. Then we are talking about CRO, CRAMS business. We are talking about CMOs. I think this space requires a different knowledge, understanding, and attitude towards working in the space. So I think that is where academia can help us, in the process of getting more knowledge and skill, for the industry.
Okay, thank you very much. So do you actively go out and search for technologies or opinion leaders in academia who can help you? Or but how do you practically execute on what you just said, that you would like to keep upgrade your skills within yourself, but at an execution level, how does MSN actually do it?
So MSN actually, started connecting with academia from the, in the engineering space. For example, we have tied up with various institutes, or wanting to tie up with even more institutes to, in the space of chemical engineering, biotechnology, for a mutual partnership from the perspective of knowledge, execution, and, and how do we take it to the next level of research. From that perspective, I think research is an integral part, even though we are a generics industry, is a very integral part of any pharma business. So we continuously want to connect with various academia from the perspective of research, even in the space of generics and other new programs where we are working on.
One very last question. You said for mutual benefit. How does it, I know it's very clear how it benefits you, but how does it benefit the academic people or academia to interact with you, besides the fact that you might pay them? But what else is there as a mutual benefit that you visualize?
Sir, the kind of an, the vision or the future where we wanted to go. Actually, the academy, if it understands, it can come up with programs which can get incorporated into their curriculum, which can help us to pick up. And most of the curriculums which has happened in last 10 years, 15 years in the research I think, my personal opinion, it has happened only because of this academia and industry connect. I think from let's say biotechnology, bioinformatics, you take anything for that matter. I think it has happened. A lot of things have happened through connect and making people ready to industry. I think academia plays a major role, and in that process, a good connect between academia and industries makes us critical, and that's why I said mutually important.
Right. Do you find them friendly enough? Like if you approach the vice chancellor and say, can you please introduce a course on bioanalyticals of generics? Do you find academia forthcoming in saying, yeah, we'll do that? Or do you hear saying them, that's not of interest to us. That's not what we do.
Sir, there is a lot of progress in the way they have been looking, maybe 10 years before and now. I think they are also willing to partner, coming up with more thought processes. There are, I would not say everybody is so forthcoming. Maybe they have some kind of a restriction from UGC or somewhere to restrict themselves. But there are industries or universities which is happy to partner, and we start working with them.
Okay. So basically, if what your idea is, if it fits within their regulatory requirements for their academic curriculum, they are willing to do it.
Yes.
But otherwise, it's a little harder for them to do. Is that a fair statement?
It takes time. I would not say it takes time for them also. I think we need, possibly both of us need, of course, the industry needs agility. We also need to practice, kind of patience, because sometimes it takes time for things getting done in India.
So, but generally you think you're happy with how Indian academia is collaborating with industry and very supportive. That's very good to hear. Can you name some universities you work with, or you are not allowed to name?
No. We have worked with, IIT Madras. We have also worked with various BITS Pilani, BITS. We have also worked with various other universities broadly in coming up with some specific programs for our people. And they are also very happy to understand and try to work. We have also, I think in the previous organization where I worked, we have also funded to few institutes to come up with some research. I think that way, I think it's a little more open.
Okay. That's really good to hear, because a lot of times you hear that one of the issues is the academia is not very flexible. I wouldn't say inflexible, but not as flexible as industry would like it to. But it's very good to hear that your experience, especially with the IITs, which are top tier institutes, you're getting a very good collaboration. This is very good to hear that. So I will come back to you, sir, but thank you very much for insights. You've set the ball rolling on a very positive note, saying you find academia in India very collaborative. But that was counterintuitive, to be honest. The general impression is there are silos between industry and academia, but your experience seems to be really good. So we should learn from you. What exactly are you doing? Are you giving them academias? Are you giving them some special gifts? I don't know what you're doing, but usually it's very hard to have a collaboration, especially with top tier institutes. So I'm very happy to hear that you managed to do that so successfully. So thank you very much. I'll come back to you with my second question. So roughly we are going to spend about 10 minutes with each individual, and then we'll come back with one common question. And then, as I said, I'd like to hear from Professor Reddy and Ajit. And I myself have, been a thinker about this, because I can tell you what, if India wants to be a developed nation, which the Prime Minister has said, he's actually given a date, innovation in pharma is critical to it, right? We cannot continue to rely on our neighbors for the innovation and simply copy and do that. So I think this is a very critical question that we're discussing. It's not something 10 years back, this discussion would not even have had. But now with the vision the Honorable Prime Minister has laid out, I think it's very critical. I mean, look at the US. If you look at the West, all of the good companies or the products they have come, if you trace their roots back, it goes back to academia. I worked on a product called Lipitor, which is cholesterol lowering. You trace it back, it went to the Nobel Prize for winning work from University of Texas. So that's the way it is. India is not quite there yet. So FABA and specifically Dr. Reddy and I is trying to champion and show people that how important it is. So very good to hear that MSN is on labs is on top of that. So Nikhil, you're next on my screen. You have the advantage that right now you're not really from pharma industry, nor are you from academia, although you've been trained in academia. You're from the investment side. So your perspective would be hopefully truly unbiased as to what value you think. But let me get you started by asking you a question. When you look at evaluating a business deal, say making an investment in Reagene Innovations, which by the way, you have still not done yet, but if you were to do that, do you think that having collaborations with top tier institutions changes your opinion of the platform or the company, or what is your view of how academia can kind of enhance the value that a biotech startup brings, and that would actually make say, oh wow, they're dealing with IIT. That means this is serious stuff. We should take it. So can you just kind of tell us your thoughts about how you view from the outside? Yeah.
Sure. So thanks. It's a very deep question, and I think I would pick up from where you left off on what happens in the West. So primarily, the challenge I see in India with companies attracting investment from either private equity funds or venture capital funds based on a strong academic partnership is the tenure. So in India, I think the investment community has not truly reached a point where they're investing for 10 years, 15 years. We are still stuck in the horizon of that 3 to 5 years. So funds have typically a life of 5 to 8 years, and the investment committee of the fund itself starts feeling, okay, if I don't see something tangible in the 3rd or 4th year, it's highly unlikely that I'm going to get an exit in the 7th or 8th year. That puts that puts connection with academics on a slightly lower tier. But having said that, outlook is definitely changing. So till this point, that has been at least that's my read of the industry, that has stopped investors from really giving that sort of weightage to academic academic relationships, either partnerships with top universities, or having someone who is academically super qualified or has an exceptional academic record being on board, tilting the the investment rationale towards a company due to this reason. So that is a major challenge that I see. I have seen European funds be really influenced by something that has a real academic connect. So someone who has published these many papers, has been cited these many times, and has these many patents, that really piques the interest of a European fund or a US fund, but that's not really the case in India yet.
So I mean, you make a very interesting point that because of your life cycle of 3 to 5 years, you discount a lot of the things that normally a US-based investment company would look at. What about if there was the University of Hyderabad had a startup by 2 professors, and you see that there's a commercially viable idea, an idea that one day could be productive and be a product. But you also see that these 2 professors obviously don't have the skill set to run a company and bring it. I mean, they're great scientists.
Correct.
Most startups, even in the US, startups are usually have scientists as a CEO, and eventually you graduate, then you get to a business person who becomes a CEO. So that's a very normal course.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, when you know that the co-founders themselves are two pure academic scientists who have come up with a very a game-changing idea, how would you view that situation? Because I know investors look a lot at the management team also, right? It's as much of investment in management as it is in the idea. So what happened if University of Hyderabad, two professors said, we have this game-changing idea, and in your valuation and your experts come back and tell you there is something here? Would you invest in that? And if you do, would you want changes in management, or how would you handle that?
So, see, the way we, at least I think it would play out is, as I mentioned, Indian investors are someone who are little averse to this. But of course, these days it's not restricted to India anymore. The investors are not restricted to India anymore. And if we put the private funding apart, what I feel could be really helpful is collaboration with strategic players. Because they inherently have that go-to-market capability. They have done that, day in, day out. That's how they've grown. That's their strong point. And the more important point I would say is strategics have a long-term view, essentially, because they are in the business for perpetuity. It's not a fund which is looking at a 8-year horizon or even a 10-year horizon. They are there for life, and so they can make that investment, and they can look at that 20x, 30x, 50x return 8 years down the line. They're okay with that. A fund might not be okay with a 50x return 15 years down the line. They are okay. They may be okay with a 2x return in 3 years, but they're not okay to wait those 15 years. I think those strategic collaborations would be really helpful. And they would understand the merit of the product as well much better.
Nikhil, I'll tell you how it was handled. Emory University, which is in Atlanta, which is a tier 1 university, there were 2 professors, and I'm telling you a real life example, and I was involved. They were trying to raise investment, and wherever they looked, it was very hard for them. And the straight answer they were getting from investors was, bring in a guy from the industry.
Yeah.
And let him do all of the product. You just be the science people. Let him or her do it. And I got recruited into a startup like that. So I have very rarely seen 2 professors having an idea, getting funded, and seeing it all the way to commercialization, right? I mean, eventually somebody from the other side has to step in. So, but on the other hand, you have the egos of professors. I mean, all of us have egos, and that's partly why we are successful, right? So how would an investment company handle that? Because you don't want to burn your bridge with the idea, because you see a ROI there, a return on investment, yet you see these are like very eminent professors, and you need to tell them that, sir, I think you just leave it to us and we'll do it. Give me a board seat. I will manage it. I'll bring my finance. My CFO will be from my side. How would you envision that situation in India?
It's a tough situation, and I don't think the industry has come up with a solution apart from not putting all your eggs in one basket. It's the venture capital way of thinking. They say, okay, I'm dealing with 10 different companies with 10 different problems. But let me not put all my money in one company. I'll just hope that one of my 10 investments will do really well. Even if 5 or 6 of the investments go bust due to whatever reason. I'm not saying that the founders' whims or fancies might be the only reason. It could be any number of reasons. I think the industry has not come up with a very concrete solution to that. But I think, yes, as you mentioned, having a board seat, having a director, and having someone, plan out the growth trajectory of the company in advance. That really helps. because I've seen a lot of companies which are in this research mode for far too long. So you are, as you mentioned, the two academically excellent founders, they're sitting together, and that's the nature of, academics, right? They come up with ideas. So it's not always one idea which they come up, which they see through to the commercial scale. It's more often 10 different ideas going halfway. So that's usually the scenario I see with a lot of startup companies, where they have a host of products. All of them have reached a certain stage. Nothing has been commercialized completely. So when somebody comes in, when you have a director, when you have someone to question you on, okay, where do you see this company 5 years down the line? That really puts things in perspective.
Yeah. Nikhil, the reason I wanted to spend time on this, because it's actually a deeper issue here. It's a clash of cultures. Academia by nature wants freedom, right? That's who they are, and that's why they went into academia. Industry by design has to listen to where the product is going to take. Otherwise, the CEO is not going to be around for too long. So I think this clash of culture somehow has to be handled very gently. And the only way you can do that if you show win-win to both the sides.
Correct.
Currently in India, this is purely my opinion with the academics, the academia side, they believe that they are being shortchanged by the industry, right? So there's a lot of price gouging. What can be accomplished for 5 lakhs? If an industry comes, that automatically becomes, I don't know, 20 lakhs. So there is a lack of faith between the two, or lack of faith might be too harsh a word, but lack of appreciation, I think. So that cultural change has to come before we can successfully bridge this gap, whether it's in skilling, whether it's in collaboration, whatever it is. Fundamental, the core issue is, do we trust each other that you're not taking me for a ride? So that's what the reason I was asking you, would you step in and say my way or the highway, or would you do it gently? Because it is a clash of cultures.
Yes.
That's the whole way it is. So yeah, thank you. Very insight. By the way, do you use academics as your sounding board on making investments on a science idea?
We are purely number driven, unfortunately, I would say. But
really?
Yeah, we should do that a lot more, especially with when we are working in industry like pharma, which has that component.
Okay, so no, to gauge the science, who do you engage now? Obviously, you guys are not scientists, but who do you send? Do you send it to? You have a panel of people from the industry, or how does it work?
So, see, from a transactions perspective, we of course have a sense of, our sounding board are the investors, are the potential investors. Frankly, I mean, I would love to say that, I consult with pure academicians, but, from our perspective, we have to deliver what the investor is seeking, essentially. For example, the last couple of years, we have been spending more on biosimilars, because of course the 7 of the 10 blockbusters were biologics. They were not small molecules, and
globally, right, Nikhil? Sorry to interrupt.
Yes,
Yeah.
Globally. And those are coming off patent. The largest molecule, Humira, has of course 6 biosimilars. So when we see a lot of interest from the investor community in some segment, that's where we seek out for those companies, even if they are in sort of an early stage, because pharma is an industry where the growth can happen even overnight. Some innovation can really drive growth in a short period of time.
Okay, thank you, Nikhil. I'll come back to you, but I think eventually you guys will have to include academia as part of your process. I think that's just for this whole thing to take off. The investor side also has to think of academia as their potential sounding board and partners, I think. So thank you very much. The next I see on my screen, Dr. Ratnakar, you have to unmute yourself.
Sure.
And yeah. I know Dr. Ratnakar quite well, and the reason I was very excited when he came on board on this panel was he's literally walked the walk. So when he was I'm not going to name his ex-employer, he can do that if he wants, but when he was with his previous life, he did a wonderful deal with an institute that has come to fruition. Not only that, that academic institute has now spun out a company. I mean, you're living the dream of what we are all of us are here towards that, but he's actually walked the walk and talked the talk. So Dr. Ratnakar, please tell me why you thought of this. Why did your company management allow you to do it? And how did you convince, the institute people to do what you wanted to do? Well, of course, you may have had some financial support, but that's not really what it is. But this is a great case study, so I'd like you to elaborate on that, please.
Sure, Dr. Uday. Thanks once again for having me on the panel. Yeah, today, I think I borrow the words from you. You said that IT and pharma are the twins,
yes,
right? So today, life sciences industry is banking heavily on support from technology, which I meant by is information technology. And there is tremendous amount of synergy which is now seen. And life sciences industry started embracing information technology, primarily the newest technologies, to aid in terms of their innovation. And that is where there is a great need for academia, who is doing tremendous amount of work on innovation in terms of life sciences. Here we will discuss more on the life sciences perspective. But there is also a greater need for collaboration with industry so that the two areas what we just discussed can come to a reality. And fortunately, what I am able to see now is not only just the academia, not only just the industry, but the entire ecosystem. Even government is trying to allow industry and academia to come together. I think this is the best case what we can see in India of late. And there's a lot of interest coming up from various corners in terms of promoting this synergy. I think what my earnest request to everyone being in the panel and also the participants is we should try to leverage that ecosystem, which is now seen very frequently. And most of even the grants which are coming up from various organizations are encouraging this kind of collaboration, because everyone around is seeing that this two entities, the academia, then the industry, has two unique kind of skill sets, two unique kind of strengths. If both can be merged or both can be brought together, I think far better would be the kind of outcomes. That is what we are seeing quite often. I will also allude on one more point, Dr. Uday, because while this is all going good, but academia, since I also have a little bit of hold on the academia, considering my role on the board of governors of JNTU,
right.
I did propose to them saying that there is a great need of the students at an early stage, right from the year one, to have the association with industry. And if my recommendations have now gone in my last board of governors meet, so the year one students itself, right in the engineering, can get actually an industry association. Normally, these people are actually allowed to do from the year three, but I'm stressing on the academic institutes that the industry interactions should actually start very early. Okay, so that's where we need to now see the synergy happening quite often and more collaborative.
Mm-hmm.
Coming to the question, what you actually raised,
right,
is academia. I think you have mentioned quite a number of examples, and you also brought in Nikhil to allude on some of those elements what you just mentioned. But academia would also be having some amount of importance or some amount of relevance for the industry to bring in certain strengths. The case in point here, what you just mentioned, is while the academia can bring in the tremendous amount of science behind it, I think the industry can bring in the element of the commercial aspects, right. The element of how do you look at the world around and how do you look at business opportunities? How can you actually plan the way in which whatever is the innovation residing in a research laboratory can then be brought into the commercial environment and then make it a more viable kind of a proposition back to the customers. I think that is where I think the greater collaboration is going to have more frequent going forward. And the best example is today DBT, DST, any ICMR or the foundations like Gates are insisting that industry should actually collaborate with academia. So most of the grants are actually tied up with this association. I think then that's where we see that the ecosystem is understanding the need for such collaboration. And more importantly, the world is turning digital, right? So that is where industry can start bringing in the digital expertise into the whole game, and the science and digital coming together is going to have a tremendous amount of innovation and tremendous amount of change in the way the business are looked at. Like Mr. Padmanabhan was talking about organizations like MSN, or in your case in organizations like Reagene. I think path-breaking work is done, and that is where the organizations like yours are trying to embrace so much of technology into it, where you are able to bring in the industry collaborations together and making the things much more brighter. And ultimately, I think you have given a lot of examples where path-breaking research work is trying to get into the commercial stage, and industry is playing a larger role over there. A second thing is, when you look at, you rightly said, finance is not the only element. Okay, finance industry definitely can bring in because of its muscle there. Right. More importantly, I think there is beyond the financial expertise which they can bring in. The first is in terms of the commercial acumen which can be brought in from the industry into the academia. So together it's going to be a highly synergistic proposition to any investor and investing community like Nikhil's. So it would be more compelling for them to look at this proposition. One is in terms of the commercial acumen which the industry can bring in. Second is, how do you make the product viable to the needs of the market? Industry is actually always right on the market, and they actually understand the market needs little better. I'm not undermining the academia in terms of their understanding. Considering that industry is in the forefront as far as the market needs are concerned, understanding the market can actually be added to whatever is the academic or scientific strength brought in by the academics. So I could see a number of such elements bringing together a synergistic effect, which can actually have a much better impact for any proposition, be it innovation, be it commercialization of a product, or be it discovering a new entity altogether. So multiple such synergies I see where the academia and industry interaction can actually be of highest importance. And as you rightly mentioned about the case study about Sri Sathya Institute, exactly this is what has happened, where the industry brought in the required elements of expertise, and together it became a much viable product for what the customers are looking at.
So how did you, I can understand Sri Sathya Institute, for them it's plain and simple, you could be a source of funding for them. So for them, that was a no-brainer to include you onto the proposal and the grant and all of that. But how did you convince your management? I mean, part of the problem in Indian generic biosimilar mindset management is, what do I care about innovation? I just have these things to get done, file my ANDAs and, make the money. As Nikhil said, it's actually not just 3 to 5 years horizon. Nikhil, I can tell you it's quarter to quarter. I have managed R&D at large companies. So how did you convince your management to really say, yeah, go ahead and do it? And I mean, you are a very senior level person there, go spend your time. I mean, that requires some thinking on management's commitment, rather, on management's part too. So how did it happen? Because it's not very often that you see what happened with you.
Yeah, a very good question, Uday, on that. I would like to answer it in two ways. It is both the top down and bottom up. I'll give you examples for both. Right? Let me start with the top down. the best case in point was COVID-19. When COVID-19 struck, I'm sure you are well aware that Prime Minister Modi has actually got the element of public-private partnership into it. And if you look at the first 4 or 5 members who are part of the committee has both industry as well as academia. Okay, so in the first committee under the principal scientific advisor, there are representatives from IIT Madras. There is representation from the large corporate houses like Tatas and Mahindras, and technology companies like Google. So that's where you're seeing the first element of top-down, where even when a crisis comes in, there is a greater need of having a cross-functional collaborative team, which has a good mix of academia and industry coming together to solve a real-world issue. That's where I meant by in terms of top-down, where everyone comes together and solve a real-world issue. When it comes to bottom-up, at an org level, any major corporation has a strong and very important initiative of innovation. And at industry, at various forums inside the organization, we feel that we can't achieve that all alone. There is strong need for academia to come together. And if you look at organizations like Mahindra's, where I represented earlier, we had maximum number of partnerships with academia globally. Be it in US, be it in Japan, be it in India, maximum number of collaborations were from the academic institutes. And why? Academic institutes bring in the relevant know-how, which can actually make us think little more than what we are used to. Okay, so academia helps us to reskill and upskill. And today, a technology company's major emphasis is on upskilling and reskilling. And when you look at these two elements, the first thing what organizations look forward is strong collaboration with academia. And that's where when it comes to the skilling, the training, third thing is in terms of bringing in the relevant innovation. There is no way where industry can actually move away from collaborating with academia.
That's great. You said that you have multiple collaborations with academia in your previous role. Not everybody thinks like that. You're fully aware. You're probably one of the handful of companies that thought like that and executed. I specifically, and you can choose not to answer, is because the owners have to be convinced of value, right? Not just the management. Did the owners of Tech Mahindra actually play a hands-on role in saying, yeah, we must do this? When you say top down, was it all the way up to the very top, or how did that happen?
It is from the very top. In fact, the initiative came in from the chairman of the company. On that note, Uday, so the current company which I represent called Persistent, it is no different. Okay, so exactly the same model is adopted over here. If I actually scan through the kind of associations which Persistent has today, maximum number of collaborations are with academic institutes globally. And thought-provoking work and really things which are really, like, for example, application of AI and machine learning on liquid biopsies are actually done. Right? A lot of work is done on genomics, proteomics. Okay, and all these things are actually done with very strong collaboration with academia. And again, as I said, it is not just limited to a particular geography. There are associations of academic institutes in the United States, in India, and various other countries. So I don't actually, single out a particular organization, but at least the organizations which I worked, which I was privy to, there are a good number of such academic collaborations helping them to nurture the innovation which is there in the industry today. And Uday, just to give you a little more emphasis around that, every organization today has relevance and importance for innovation, because if industry need to be seen by the customers as a thought leader in that particular space, innovation comes in at the forefront. And there are a lot of hackathons done by the corporates, bringing in this industry into that particular forums. And you can look at not just only the service providers, academics, and also the large corporates, all are coming together to try and solve a real world problem. So, this association of industry academia can definitely be, seen in the long run much more, engaging, much more fruitful. Now, I could say that it is in an early stage in this phase of the journey.
Yeah.
And convincing, I don't think, at least from my experience, I didn't find it difficult to convince my management. As long as the need for such innovation is required,
right.
Management also feels that academic collaboration is the need of the hour. Yep. And they also feel that, without an academic collaboration, things cannot be achieved.
Yep. Well, let's thank you. I mean, those are some very interesting stories, and let's hope that we don't require another COVID for industry to engage with academia, because you started off saying that was the reason why you first, at least some of your collaborations were because the Prime Minister himself said you need to go out there and find solutions for this, and that's what triggered it. But I hope it becomes a culture in every industry. From what I'm hearing from MSN Labs and then now you, it seems like we have made some very fascinating progress towards that, looks like. So
absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I will come back to you with the one common question for all, but thank you so much for your time. Parul, you're up next. You may have to unmute yourself and then let me ask you a question. Of all the people that are here, you will probably, if successful, you'll probably make the most money for your investors simply because you're engaged in new drug discovery, high risk, high return. So I think you're at a very exciting stage in your company. I mean, I know your platform and the company quite well by now. So let me ask you, do you currently have any collaborations with academia?
Well, currently we don't have academic collaborations, but our co-founder himself is an academician. He's Dr. Krishnamurti Natarajan, a professor at JNU. So that's our connect with the academics. Having said that, we do use the infrastructure from academic like IISER Pune and NCCS. We are fortunate enough to be in the vicinity, in the ecosystem where we can use that infrastructure. Small companies like startup companies like us, we can't invest too much in large scale infrastructure. So that ecosystem where we are currently in Pune is helping us move the science forward.
But what about intellectual inputs? I mean, do you actively look for academic partners who might have a certain idea that might accelerate your own path or add to it? Or, I mean, do you actively scope out for such things, or it just happens if it happens?
So being a small company, our focus, right? So I come from an academic background. I have not had an industry experience. The entire program started from my academic knowledge that I gained. So in a way, being a startup company, we are at the cusp of academics and industry. And our focus is what has led us to become a clinical stage company now, over the span of 6 years, because we were very, very focused on what we know and what we want to develop. Having now reached a stage where we have more options now to develop our platform technology, yes, we are actively looking for partners who can help us take it to the next level.
Okay. I guess really what I was going for you've obviously made great progress in being a clinical company. You've successfully filed IND, you've done clinical trials and all that. This is a good time for you to look for other targets and other skin diseases. And, there's a lot of derm related work going on in academia in this country. For some reason, India seems to love dermatology. I don't know why, both from the industry side. Professor Reddy is a pioneer in,
I
one
know.
of the pathways. So would you now, as you expand your horizons, would you actively, I mean, you have two pathways, right? One is organic, which is you yourself an idea, which is great. The other is through a partnership, and within partnership, there can be another industry, but that has to be very carefully thought through when you want to partner with another industry. Academia is a lower hanging fruit. Would you be willing to partner with, suppose, lipoxygenase is a very good target for, I'm just saying, vitiligo or psoriasis, whatever. And if somebody has identified and has IP on that, would you be willing to work with academia and accept that, a lot of times industry has what is called an NIH syndrome, which is not invented here. Because since your scientists haven't invented, you don't think much of that invention. But as a CEO, would you be willing to look at academia as a source of your next product idea?
Why not? I mean, science is what we are here to do, and science with academicians, if that works, then why not? We are very, very open to collaborations. And see, to tell you very frankly, I think the two skills that the complementation of skills that are there in academia and industry, they gel very well together to actually accelerate science and accelerate commercialization was what Nikhil was mentioning about. Of course, it cannot be like from a 12-year horizon to a 3-year horizon,
Right.
but why can't it be from a 10-year horizon to maybe a 8 to 9-year horizon, right? So I think that collaboration is what we are very, very keen to explore, to work with, to accelerate the scientific innovations.
I mean, you're one of the few lucky ones where the co-founder comes from academia. So I think you will get from your management, you will get the green signal right away because there's deep understanding from your
Yes.
co-founder side of what it offers. That's not true for all startup biotechs and investors who are investing in, as Nikhil said, 3-year cycle. It's like, why are you wasting your time working with, a person who wants to guide 12 PhD students and get the papers out? And in that process, if he helps you, he will help you, otherwise not. So you're quite lucky. And I guess the question is for those who are not as lucky as you, what would you suggest to convince their management and say, hey guys, here's a brilliant idea from an academic. Let's go and work with them, despite the fact that he or she has 12 PhDs and has the own work, but there is value we can extract. I mean, how would you convince a different management that doesn't have the same view as your management does right now? So
I think for a company, I mean, I'm sure that luck is definitely a factor, but having investors who understand this field, okay, who
yeah,
don't, that is the first thing. Nobody else is going to invest in a company like ours if they don't appreciate what we are doing. It's only
right,
and solely that they accept the fact that this is a 10-year horizon that they
right,
have come up,
right,
because they believe in the vision. If they believe in the vision, they believe in the people who are executing it, like us. And that conviction is what actually can drive them to, go along with the CEO, go along with the founders, that if they are putting in so much of, because we put in a lot of work, right? And that if investors understand, they would be convinced with the science behind why we are backing something, what we are backing. What can help is, of course, having KOLs in the field to talk to
right,
them and to
right.
make them appreciate that what the management has brought a proposal forward that has a huge amount of, prospect of getting commercialized, to prospect of
Yeah.
getting successful. I think that
Yeah.
itself, these 2-3 combinations together can be very useful for people to convince the management to take these collaborations forward.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I mean, it looks like from what we heard from MSN Labs and also Ratnakar and then yourself, that there is a paradigm shift in the thinking about working from the industry side, from working in academia, which was not there, certainly not there 10 years back. Maybe 5 years we started scratching the surface, and now we are seeing some real life examples of academia being actively a partner. And in your case, literally academia is a partner. Your co-founder is from academia. So it's very good to see that this is basically, this is what is going to drive innovation, I think,
Absolutely.
is the partnership. The US example I gave, it's true for some of the biggest companies in US today were spun out from academia. So
I agree.
it's a no-brainer actually, but we need to convince ourselves that it is a no-brainer. Dr. Ramana, I'm so sorry if I had to keep you waiting. It's just that the sequence of what I see on the screen. Are you there, sir?
Yes, I'm there. It's just that I'm not using my video.
Sure.
No
problem. No problem at all. Reliance, and you've been there for such a long time. My question is actually a challenge. So when you work with, say, in academia, for sure, I'm sure, you have academic collaborations because of some of the path-breaking work that Reliance Life Sciences has done. How do you, so it seems like your management seems to be committed to finding new solutions, whether it comes from within or industry or, Tata Memorial or whatever. But how would you handle the sticky issue that I have found is intellectual property, right? Because the professor has a PhD student who needs to submit the thesis for which they need to have 2 papers published. And they are not going to hold the student hostage because you have to file a patent on that. So have you ever encountered any difficulties in working with academia that became quite serious in nature?
I would say not. But
Okay.
one reason is that we work with academia on very specific problems. For example, we wanted some lyophilization to be standardized, and they helped us. So there is not really too much of IP involved in this.
Okay.
One other aspect that we worked is a delivery of siRNA.
Right.
Again, the institute already has filed an IP for that, so we didn't have any trouble using it. But unfortunately, that didn't go through because of some toxicity issue that we had.
Right.
So we had to stop. But then we also always find these days, at least that we talk to industry, academia, they're very clear about IP. First of all, they file the IP, even if it is a PhD student's work that I have seen interacting with some of the professors. The IP is already filed, a provisional patent, and they're very clear about the rights, what the industry they're going to, what rights industry is going to get, and then what will stay with academia. So those things, and I would say these are with institutes that are really at top notch, even in India. So they're very clear about those aspects. So I don't see that as a problem.
Okay. Let me ask you another equally, yeah. Thank you very much for those words. I have one more question to ask you, sir, which is equally critical. How do you decide how you share the revenues if and when their technology hits the market? What has been your experience in revenue sharing? Because that was another, I mean, even before we started a collaboration, there was a huge brouhaha about, it is our technology, we should be getting the majority share, not you, you're just an enabler. So that was another, culture shock I had specifically when I was trying to partner with academia in India. Have you encountered any debate on how the monetization would happen?
We haven't really gone through a lot of details about that with academia.
Okay.
What I can say is Reliance has a lot of experience in both Reliance Industries, our parent company, as well as Reliance Life Sciences. We in-license technology. So we know how it works. Typically, you have a license fee, milestones after you say phase 1, 3, commercialization, and then you have royalties. So those aspects are very clear, and we learn from industry abroad.
Yeah.
And we try using them even for India.
Okay.
And many times it works. There will be some to and fro negotiations happen,
Yeah.
but I think our experience is, we converge.
Okay.
So I really, again, don't see a big issue there.
I mean, that's really good to hear. I mean, pretty much every single panelist who is sitting here is saying that they do see a need for working with academia. Some of them have live examples of successfully doing it. And here you are saying that you've even negotiated an IP and on revenue positions with them, which is, I mean, that's a very deep dive, right? I mean, so we have come a long way, sounds like. Basically, the take-home message so far seems like what used to be just on the chalkboard saying we need to collaborate industry and academia, you would listen to somebody and then walk away and forget. But now it seems like people are executing on it very successfully, or at least have the mindset to go in that direction.
Yes.
Would you say that's a fair assessment?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
It is, Dr. Uday. I think we are now at a very good position to negotiate with academia and then convince them that, okay, these kind of deals are done abroad. So we
Yes.
should do very similar deals here too.
Okay. Okay. But do you still need to showcase an MIT deal to convince them, or they're still, if they see directly,
No.
right? I mean, you know what I'm asking you. Is it only because MIT did it that they will do it, or is it because they truly see value and that's why they're, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, please go ahead.
I think one has to be fair. Yeah.
Yes.
Both industry and academia have to be fair about the whole deal.
100% true. Yeah.
So industry has to invest huge amount of money to bring a product.
Yes.
So asking for a huge amount of upfront fee is, it may not work.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a sharing risks. Research development is very important.
Yeah, very well said. I think basically you're saying what we started off saying is that it has to be win-win for both. It cannot just be win for industry.
Absolutely.
And you leave some crumbs for academia. It cannot be that way. It has to be win-win. Yeah, I totally agree with you. And
Excellent.
It's actually very, we have spent about an hour, 15 minutes, and every panelist, as I said, it's very encouraging to listen to the mindset, because Parul represents the next generation CEOs in this country, and I'm hoping that all of them think that if there is an interesting idea, she will be able to convince management to partner with academia if there is value to be had. That's actually a significant change in mindset, I think. Even from my time, when I was part of a big company, then it seemed like it was just a paper exercise that you go talk to IIT, you talk to IISc because they are, but rarely was there an executable story that we have. But it sounds like things are changing for the better, which is outstanding to hear, I think. What I'm going to do, Dr. Ramana, my last question is the same question for all. Since I already have you, I will ask you that question. If on your wish list, there was one thing that you could do to upskill, the current students to better prepare them for the industry, what is it you'd like to do?
I come from a research background.
Yes.
And my role in Reliance is also research.
Yes.
So I think it's useful for students to understand, as Dr. Ratnakar mentioned, what is that industry now looking for? What are the products that they are after? So for example, monoclonal antibodies, cell and gene therapies, bispecific antibodies, mRNA therapies, and novel formulations. These are some things that we're going to see in next 20 years. Huge number of products are going to come out, and that requires tremendous innovation. And these products these technologies like antibody technologies are responsible for maybe 70% of new products that you see currently. So if students can understand how this discovery happens, what it makes to bring these products to market, and what are the regulatory challenges, I think that's something will be very useful for the future.
Okay. That's an excellent point. I completely agree with you that you have to keep an eye on science is changing by the minute as we speak. So as a student, you have to be very clear where the the field is heading. So very good recommendation, Dr. Ramana. Thank you. Parul, you're the next.
Thank you.
Same question for same question for you, Parul. If on your wish list there was one thing you could tell academia to upskill themselves to be a better fit with the industry, what would that be?
I think it has to be openness to assimilate new information, the new technology that comes in. I've seen a lot of, I mean, I come from that background only, but I've seen a lot of academicians not open to trying, using new technologies and doing the same age-old things for whatever reasons. One is that definitely, and from the student's perspective, since I'm a recent, not so recent, but a fairly recent PhD grad, I think one thing which was not taught in academia is translational skills. Discovery and development are two very different aspects, which the skill set required for both and the thinking required for both is different. And especially in the industry, unlike academia, you have to take very quick decisions in terms of go no go criteria.
Right.
That is something which I would be very keen that academicians need to train their students, that if something is not working, then when is the right time to give it up and not just sit on it and keep on following it, because that is something which I have also picked up once I have moved to the startup company. That's one of the first lessons that I learned in fact. So that these two things are what I would recommend.
Yep. Excellent insights. I completely agree with both of your suggestions. I think, industry needs to step up and kind of be patient about how the industry works and integrate themselves. I mean, they both have to, but I'm saying the lag usually comes from the academic side. With all due respect to the wonderful and eminent academics we have here, but complete agreement with you, Parul. Thank you so much for your insights. Yeah. Dr. Ratnakar, your views on, on your wish list, if there's one or maybe 1.5 things you would want to be done, how would you want academia to prepare themselves for a collaboration, upskill themselves, either from a technology side or from the student side? What's your message for our audience, some of whom might actually be students? So.
Sure. Yeah, I think this is a difficult ask. But there are two asks from my side, though you said 1.5, but I have two. The first ask is for academics. The academia should actually have a kind of a dynamic course curriculum so that the students are equipped with the current know-how, the current needs of the market. So they are prepared to face the industry challenges and the industry needs real time. That's one ask from an academics standpoint of view. More importantly, while the academics do have certain constraints in making the course curriculum dynamic, students at the other side doesn't have any such constraints.
Yep.
I think from a student's perspective, if they have their ears on the ground, if they really have a kind of a continuous learning in terms of the latest trends, what the market needs, and maybe upskill themselves. I think today it is not just limited to only the course curriculum they actually go through, but there are likes of Byju's, there are likes of various other platforms which allows them to upskill. Okay, so that they are actually making themselves relevant.
Yep.
On the other note, industry should also play a larger role there. Okay, making academics as an integral part of their entire business value chain. All the industries, be it pharma, be it technology industries, both these are heavily dependent on people. And how much ever academics want industry also requires the same amount from academics. So to that extent, if industry also plays that larger role of becoming themselves an integral part in the journey of academics, so that they bring in their strengths, they bring in their thought leaders into the the entire ecosystem of academics. I think we can see a new world emerging for India.
Yeah, yeah. Excellent. Very profound answer. Well, let me give you an example. At Bionest, I mentor a lot of interns that come in. The first question I ask them is, why do you want to intern in a company so small as ours? And the answer is, stunningly enough, the answer is, I want to understand how the industry works. And these are people who are either in third year BSc or first year master. So the awareness of understanding how the industry works is coming at a very early stage. These are not PhD or postdocs who are saying this, very young. So I think from the academia side, the students are certainly very interested in knowing how the other side works, because they realize that the opportunities that are there in the industry, which were not there for my generation at least, or not as many, are there. So I think the students are really gearing up and preparing for the future quite well. So, and I think internships is actually a great way of that. So Nikhil, thank you so much, Ratnakar. Nikhil, same question to you. You probably were a very recent student. I don't know when you were in college, but if you were a student all over again today in today's world, how would you approach saying, I need to upskill myself and be marketable to industry because I see myself as a future? I mean, what would you do? How would you approach that upskilling problem?
So, Uday, I think it's more of a mindset, I would say, because of course, yes, upskilling yourself with the latest trends is always is preferable, but not a lot of students might they might not have the right kind of exposure. So, but at least the big concern that I hear from a lot of founders when they are trying to recruit quality chemists is that the field itself has not become very attractive, that one wants to spend 7-8 years and then you're working for a meager pay from compared to, let's say, an IT professional. So I guess it's a mindset that I would say the same thing to students who and I would tell that to myself as well, that look at the long term. You might start low, because at the end of the day, there are some people who are very passionate about pharma or biotechnology who would go into that space, but to generate the kind of numbers that we need, the industry actually needs, it needs to be monetarily beneficial as well. And from that standpoint, I would say students should look at it a little bit more long term. India is doing lot more of value added services and innovation compared to let's say 5-10 years back, where generics were the big was the biggest industry. And when there is more value being added, there is much more of there's a lot more funds which can be allocated towards research, and that will definitely improve your financial prospects as well. So that would be my suggestion, and that would be a suggestion to myself also.
Right.
Look at the long term. Try to be the best. Try to upskill yourself, have the latest knowledge. Don't be hampered by the short term financial sort of that there's a lag in these kind of industries where you're financially on par with some of the other alternatives that are there.
Yeah. Very good thoughts. And practically, I'll tell you, a lot of people who get trained in my lab obviously go out and look for greener pastures, and I have no issue with that at all. So did I when I was their age. But what I do tell them is, don't change a job just because the other job is paying you 5,000 rupees more. Accountability and learning has to be the first driver of why you change a job. So it pretty much, I think, is the experience that I've had is what you're saying. So very good. Thank you so much, Nikhil. Dr. Padmanabhan, I'm so sorry you're the last one on the same question. Would love to hear your thoughts on that, please.
Certainly, I think being a student of human resources, there was a lot of research has gone into what kind of a learning, which place the learning is more. I think one of the profound research has told that 70% of the learning comes from experiential learning by Center for Critical, Creative Leadership, CCL. It says 70-20-10. 70% comes from experiential learning. 20% comes from. Sorry.
Sure, no problem.
20% comes from peer learning and 10% from theory. I think one of the things certainly we would want to do is create more opportunities for experiential learning. And internship is one such process. I think that's where even I would work with the academia to create more opportunities for the students. Why students? Even for the professors or the academia people to understand the industry, go to symposiums, try to see what are those new things which has come up. See, doctors attend regularly symposiums to understand what are the new technology, new equipments. I think academicians also need to understand, for example, in a chemical engineering or a biotechnology, what are those new technologies which have come up, and how do we incorporate those learnings into their syllabus so that students are ready. Okay, so you cannot just depend upon industry. They should also get prepared themselves. I think certainly there is a lot of scope for experiential learning during this period of academia for the students and the professors, or the even from the industries. So certainly we need to collaborate more and try to create more experiential learning is what I was thinking.
Excellent. Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I think the fundamental changes at the grassroots levels are coming in academia also. I think they also understand that the value of education is in the placement that they get, right? So what can we do to better enhance the placement of the students? A lot of thinking is going on at that level too. Thank you so much. Please, panelists, do not go away. We'll wait for the Q&A, but I would really like to hear for a couple of minutes each from Professor Reddy first, and then Dr. Ajit Kamath on this whole discussion we have had, and what do you feel about how we can help in the upskilling and the collaboration between industry and academia. Professor Reddy, please.
Yeah, thanks, Uday. I think you have been mentioning my name several times. So industry has been interacting with academia for human resources. Ultimately, the human resources in any industry is coming from academic institutions. If you take IT industry, they go all the way to the college and then recruit the students because of the requirement that they have. And pharma also, specifically the chemistry background, getting the manpower is not so easy. They go to the colleges and then recruit. So that kind of interactions is good. But as far as life science industries are concerned, I think that's not happening, not much. In fact, there are a large number of students looking for positions, but the number of positions available in the industry are very limited. And those who are having experience or having the right skill set to only get the opportunities in the life science industry. But with reference to the innovations and the technologies for which the industry has to come and interact with academic institutions, what kind of innovations are coming from the academic institutions, whether there could be. But unfortunately, the mindset of the industry is still not geared up for innovative product development. And once such kind of mindset is changed, and I'm sure if they tap upon the expertise and the innovations coming from the academic institute, definitely innovative products will come in the pharma or biopharma industries also. But that is slowly changing now. And with reference to the skill set that is required in pharma or biopharma, see, the healthcare industry is rapidly moving from one type to the other. Dynamic skill set is required, as Dr. Ratnakar was mentioning, that so healthcare industry started with small molecule, then large molecules, now cell-based therapies, gene therapies, and digital health, So a lot of changes are taking place. And as far as the skill set that is required in life sciences, the biopharma industry is totally different compared to the skill set that is required in, IT or to certain extent in the chemistry. And that is where I think, you require whatever the skill set that is required, that is that has been learned in the academic institutions is not enough. And you need to separate, either it should be through internships or it has to be separate training programs. For IT industry, there are so many institutions have come up, offering that kind of new skill set that is required. But as far as healthcare industry, which is cost lot of if any kind of laboratory skills are required, it will be very cost intensive, and that is where the problem lies. And FABA Academy has come forward to offer such kind of skill set that is required in the industry, but many such kind of training programs are required. We hope that many of the industries also will come forward in offering such kind of internships and help in organizing such kind of workshops so that the skill set that is required in the industry will be met.
Completely agree with you. I am volunteering with both hands. Whatever you want me to do, my lab is there, I can train, but that's complete agreement with you, sir.
Yeah, that's what we have been using. We are always, you're always available, and we have been utilizing your expertise for training the manpower.
Thank you so much, Ajit. Your thoughts, please. Please go ahead.
Sure. Okay. Thank you for for having me here. I mean, most of the excellent science goes on in academia. There is no doubt about it. Okay, academia, they are the ones who are building all the knowledge, and pharmas are there, or biotechs are there, or agri company to convert that into products. And that is a very clear distinction we have. And that has been there for years and years. People in academia spend decades and decades trying to understand the system, trying to understand, how exactly it works, the mechanism, rationale, and everything else. And pharmas or companies use that knowledge to convert that into a product. I think that is the fundamental advantage that we have, that academia has so much information, so much knowledge that has to be harnessed by pharma industry, giving that as an example and saying how that can be converted into a product and bring it to the market. So all of it comes with the professor or the head, the faculty who knows about all these things, and he or she can serve as a KOL for that particular industry and say, okay, we'll support you in this particular aspect because there's some very nice ways of doing it, very sharp, excellent ways of executing it. Why are you looking at the current methodology? There are better methods of doing it, and that's where they come in. Okay, but it's not that the professor who is doing that; it is his or her student who is doing it, and that's where I think the skilling aspect comes into the picture. Invariably, whenever I have interacted with a professor, he or she will have a student who knows in and out about it, because they are the ones who are executing all these things, and they will say, I'll connect you to my student, and he or she will help you out. Okay? And that is the type of relationship we want to build between academia and industry, so that things become seamless, and there is already a kind of a cordial relationship between the academia and industry, and it gets converted into the product. Okay? Now comes the important part of how we can train the people, how we can train the youngsters. Okay? And this is exactly through this process, wherein you can have some of these as interns, okay, who will come to the academia, from academia to the industry. And I'm glad to see so many of you, founders and head of the company here. You will be able to recruit them and perhaps guide them as to what happens. Obviously, academic setting is very different than industry setting, so they require some handholding, some change of mindset to say that this is what is expected in the industry. These are all the attributes that are required in order to work in the industry, and it's easy for them. But I think some handholding, some internship in companies such as yours, I think we have various companies represented here. If that can be done, I think it is going to go a long way in order to bring the product to the market. In addition, making these interns grow professionally, and then they can decide whether they like it or they want to go abroad for, go for higher studies locally or outside. So if there is some way of preparing them for industry through internship, doing some handholding, I think it's going to go a long way in making India a powerhouse in biotechnology, whether it's in healthcare, whether it's in agriculture, aquaculture, or any area. But industries need to help, and that's where I'm seeking all of your support to help our youngsters.
Sure. Yeah. Completely agree with you, Ajit. Thank you so much for your insights. Ajit and I, we overlap. Our careers are very similar. He has worked at Pfizer, I have. So a lot of the time, what he says is what I'm thinking. So thank you so much, Ajit. Divya, if you are there, let's open it up for questions. Are there any in the chat box, or how do we want to take the questions?
Right now, I could see there aren't questions available.
Oh, there are not. Okay, so our panelists were so clear that there are no. I see a lot of comments in the chat box. So can some of you demute yourself and please go ahead and ask whatever it was that you've been chatting about, please.
So Dr. Beda Chakravarti, I think you could probably raise your point for the benefit of panelists as well as for the participants.
Yes. Are you there, Dr. Chakravarti? Yes.
I think he was there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I also
maybe
see a lot of. Okay, I see comments from Prasad, Samir, Alekia. So why don't you people please unmute, and if you don't want to come on video, that's fine. But go ahead and ask the questions that you've been posting here. So please, any of you.
Yeah, first off, thank you for the opportunity. This is a wonderful online meeting, finding out the needs and gaps between the academia and the industry. My name is Prasad Jaradi. I support sustainable innovation and technology commercialization based in Austin, Texas. My organization name is Suraksha. Previously, I have partnered with FABA Academy as well. So my mission has been in promoting sustainable innovation, encouraging green chemistry into the play, and also mitigating the pollution aspects like single-use plastics, whatnot, including catalysts that we use and push as a waste material. So my work nowadays is towards making this entire process, starting from the basic research as an atom economy, on the contrary to what is going on today. This is not new, but again, it's been widely neglected. I'm pushing for this because we are in a situation where we need to deal with the environment also, not only just profit. So that's where I am putting my head around and trying to work with organizations like FABA so that we can take our innovation engine in a different way, because of two reasons. One, the investment opportunities are wide open for businesses that could actually immediately include sustainability angle in the long run, minding environmental protection also. So this is not widely not known in academic and industry circles, especially in India. So there's a lot of education required. Even attorneys need to be educated in sustainability, et cetera, et cetera. So this is where I want to build bridge between West and East. So my question is, I would be are there opportunities? I know FABA welcome me with open hands, but I would like to know if other industry executives would like to take a look at all these options that I have just described. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I think maybe I should, if if Dr. Ramana is there, would you please be willing to respond to the query on your interest in sustainable innovation, sir?
So I thought I heard about green chemistry.
Yes.
This is something very useful. I tried telling my chemistry colleagues to use a lot of enzymes instead of catalysts that they use.
Yep.
At least for some reactions, and I think that's very useful molecules that the industry is working.
Yeah.
I can certainly interact with our chemistry guys and put forward the thoughts that the gentleman has.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any other panelists would want to comment on that, or there are some other questions? If not, I can move on to another question I see here. So.
Actually, Dr. Prasad through Suraksha Pharma has been offering has been campaigning for sustainable technological solutions, either in the pharma or biopharma, and offering coming up with some solutions also. So their organization is the one for either pharma or biotech or industries to interact and then come up with sustainable solutions, without any damage to the environment.
Yep. Got it. Thank you. I see there is a question on the chat box from Manasa. Manasa, would you like me to read it, or would you like to ask it yourself? Okay, I'll go ahead and read it. Okay, that's what you want. Okay. Any special grants from the government or private investors for finishing schools or upcoming biotech training academies to set up a process science lab with bioreactors, HPLC, and other equipment? So the Manasa is looking for an answer to this. So Ajit, I saw you raise your hand. So yeah. Please go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, Manasa, the government of India has a scheme known as BCIL. I think you should look into that, where they support you going to finishing school and take that particular coursework. I think they fund it for 1 year. You will be able to apply and then say that I want to work in perhaps one of the biotech companies, and they provide funding to the biotech company. Some small grant money while they pay you, some scholarship for 1 year, and you'll be able to get trained in that particular area. So I suggest you just look at this BCIL, biotechnology consortium, something industry, something. So please look into that, and I strongly suggest you apply. That is one option. The second is, you're trying on your own, going to writing to some of the companies, if not, trying to look at some academic lab that have some of these expertise and reaching out to them and saying that, I want to learn a little bit more about it whenever you have time, that is another option of doing it. But in fact, there is the scheme from Government of India, that is BCIL, to which you can apply. And there are a lot of scholarships. I know that because, people apply constantly and get funded.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ajit. There's one more question. It's actually a suggestion that maybe Parul can respond to. There's somebody, Archana Gandhi, who has posted and said that mushrooms could be a game changer as a protein food, as it has immunity booster and can be produced with the low-cost material. And she also adds with low investment, and Bihar has a lot of scope. So, this whole new thing, I don't know if you're listening to the ads about vegetarian meat now, it's all over now in India. So Have you? What are your thoughts on that, Parul? I mean, that seems like a very upcoming thing now.
So I already know of a couple of companies who are working in this area. So I am aware of the large market they are trying to capture because of this entire concept of vegan and vegetarian meat. You are absolutely right. It's not doesn't require too much of a raw material, so can be a good business to set up. But this comes in the category of nutraceuticals in a way. This is not drugs, and so it again comes as a selling of a product, selling of branding. There's no IP associated. There is no, so it becomes you have to become a brand to sell it to the. Otherwise, what else? What is stopping others from doing that? That is the only issue. But as I said, I already know of 2 companies doing it. This idea is already has reached that execution stage where people are looking at mushrooms as a very good source for protein and in a way exotic food. There are certain forms of mushrooms which are sold at a very, very large cost. So that also is already in execution.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, thank you for your response. Nikhil, in your role as reviewing investment opportunities, do you see a lot of green chemistry proposals or clean meat, as it's being called now, alternate plant-based meats? Do you see a lot of proposals coming through that? That seems to be very topical now. So
yes, of course. In fact, we met one such company last week, and yes, it's catching on a lot. And I think veganism also is picking up due to the the positive climatic effect also that it has, and not even mushrooms, but dairy-based whey was the first step. But I think, as it was mentioned, we have moved on from dairy as well. It's pure vegan now. So people are extracting protein from even pulses, and they're also and it's true. It's already a commercial scale activity, and there's a lot of interest both from a domestic perspective and even from a global perspective.
okay, so but plenty of opportunities there. I see Alekia has raised her hand. Please go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, good evening, Dr. Uday Saxena, and good evening, everyone on the panel. Thank you so much for arranging this wonderful platform to interact and listen to all the great
Alekia, can I just ask you, are you a student or a faculty or the industry or?
So basically, I'm in the transition mode right now.
Okay.
I was a student at the MD Anderson Cancer Research Center in Texas, Houston. I was doing my PhD.
Right.
And then due to personal reasons, I had come back to India because of the family reasons. So so my question is here right away, like no offense to anyone on the panel here, because I've been in the shoe where I was transitioning from academy to industry, and also with my experience with my friends, I just wanted to ask, what is the current scenario of people who have gotten experience in abroad and want to come back to India and work in companies? Like, we're not getting recognized and we're not being accepted. So I do have a good skill set experience. So since this is a platform where I thought, I can understand how the interviewers think and, what is the thinking behind. I'm an Indian too. I don't need a visa to get a job, and I am willing to work, and, we want to grow too. And so I had friends also who had a PhD and they did postdoc, and they were applying to universities from there to join, to come back to India too. And there were a lot of rejections for them. So basically they have given up and they don't want to come to India, and now they're trying only in US. So this is for their side of the story, which I'm asking the question right now. For me, like I am come back to India, and now I'm like struggling to find jobs, even though I have a good experience, skill sets, and I've come like a great experience from MD Anderson too. So I'm so sad that I can't give my skill sets to Indian companies too.
Yeah, let me have if Mr. Padmanabhan can, as an HR, can answer, and then Ajit also has raised his willing. So, Mr. Padmanabhan, would you like to answer why, how she can navigate her path forward?
Hey, I mean, I can only give a generic answer.
Yes.
But I'll be happy to, if you want to connect with me again offline, possibly we can talk very specifics. Okay, the company possibly, in India are on multiple stages. Not sure what kind of a companies you are reaching out to, and somewhere as a company, we have some kind of a process. Like, we go to campus and pick up some people if they are in the kind of a top 10, 20 companies in India. Otherwise, we go by some kind of a known resource. Somebody says, yeah, I think she's good. She will be useful. So we still are, I mean, I would not say, we are little risk averse. I think from that perspective, possibly some things would not have happened to Indian students. Otherwise, having been in the industry for little more than 1.5 decades, I think we are very comfortable taking students if the skill sets are matching our requirements.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a generic statement I would know, but if you want any specifics, you can take my number, contact me anytime, and we will go into details, and I'll be happy to help you here.
That's great.
If not in MSN, outside MSN too.
Perfect. Alekia, you got your $1 million answer. You'll now get some gyan from Dr. Ajit as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no. See, Alekia, in this particular case, I think you're too specialized in one particular area. And, in companies in India working on cancer, because they're from MD Anderson, they may not be looking at such specialized area of drug discovery or utilization for diagnostics and other things. What you'll have to do is kind of make some changes to your CV and make it more on technical side. Okay, I think that's what Padmanabhan also talking about, as to how you can emphasize on the skills rather than anything else. So I'll be glad to help you. You can reach out to me, and I can tell you how you can do it. But there are opportunities. I mean, a couple of companies I'm helping here, we have had people from all over the US and Europe, and also there is a requirement. There are opportunities here, but it's a question of how do you reach out to the right company, okay, and kind of convince them how it's a good match. Again, that's most important. Okay?
Yeah.
And if you can make that match and get hold of somebody within that company, then things will go very well. But I can tell you more offline.
Yeah. I often use the word shadi.com when, young people are looking for jobs. Not the best way to explain it, but that's really what it is. Yeah. Professor Reddy, please go ahead.
Yeah. Alekia, where are you?
Which?
In Hyderabad or
Yes.
Mumbai?
Hyderabad, sir.
So walk into Bionest, University of Hyderabad.
Very good idea.
There are about 30 plus companies, and I am sure one of them will be interested to hire you, basing on your skill set. There is a strong anti-cancer drug discovery company also.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know how to get to Bionest? If not, just chat with Divya and she will let you know how to get
okay,
to.
So sure. I just have one more question. So if you don't mind,
sure.
can I ask?
Yeah, no problem.
So this is a very direct question. Again, no offense, but I just want to understand how a company thinks. So is it a downfall to have a PhD? Because I know these days, a master's can also do the same thing as a PhD. So it comes down to the financial, the remuneration side, where the companies want to or prefer a less highly educated skilled person, which is why you don't get jobs. Is it that the reason in India also? Because my friends are also struggling.
Dr. Ratnakar, I mean, you hire hundreds of people in your different jobs. Do you want to take that question, please?
Sure. So Alekia, first thing is maybe I have a different answer for your first question. Industry takes people with open hands when person from overseas applies. There is no such kind of restriction for any industry to take students from abroad, and in fact it will be actually a great asset for a corporate to have people with your skill set. So maybe you should start thinking high about your skill set, what you have. Second thing is being a PhD is always a plus. I don't think it is any kind of an issue for the corporate. And corporates do require people with PhDs. And in fact, in my organization, I have maximum number of PhDs working on the drug discovery, where people come in from drug discovery experience and work in the services, IT services organization. So no such constraints. And I think you can come in, as the Professor Reddy mentioned, there is a great amount of opportunities waiting. You should come and then explore all those opportunities in the University of Hyderabad. But outside of that too, you have maximum number of opportunities and you should leverage. So maybe your whatever perceptions you had about opportunities through your friends, maybe it may not be really true. And I think come with an open mind. I'm sure you'll find the right kind of opportunity for yourselves.
Sure. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Parul, do you want to tackle the PhD issue? I mean, you also hire people, so do I, but I would like your insights on, is it a negative? Are you seen as overqualified if you had a PhD?
Not at all. I mean, I always I am looking for people with a PhD, with expertise. But of course, what the skill set, as everybody in the panel has already mentioned, is what people look at. PhD adds a lot of value, at least for companies like ours, because the training that a PhD student gets, we have all gone through it, and that's what adds a lot of. It's an addition and not a negative thing. For sure, for any company, for any science-based innovation company, unless and until you're looking for people to just blindly do something, which not many companies, no innovation company would look at people, would want people who are only doing something without having the understanding and without any addition. Everybody looks at what can a person add value, and PhDs always bring more value.
Yep.
As compared to somebody with a, of course, MSCs can be trained, but the number of years you need to train an MSc, you don't have in industry. So it's always a plus point, Alekya.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you so much, Parul, for that answer. Alekya, I'm sure you're all fired up and excited. It looks like you have a bright future ahead. I completely endorse what everybody else has said. Unfortunately, we don't have an opening in Reagene. Otherwise, I wouldn't have let you even talk to anybody else. But first, please feel free to visit BioNest, and I think you will find that there's plenty of opportunities. We are sharply at 6 o'clock now. Any one last question? If not, we'll wrap up. I see a lot of students on the thing. Don't be shy. So if you want to find a job, the first thing is please don't be shy. If you're shy, the guy who's going to hire you or a girl who's going to hire you will never know what skills you have. So please go ahead and ask a question. Yeah. Abdullah, do you have a question, Abdullah, or you just posted your Gmail? Is there a reason for your email, or no other questions? Okay. Kashmila Shinde, do you quickly want to ask a question? It's quite a long thing. Would you like to please very quickly ask your question to the panel? Kashmila? Okay, that's fine. Not a problem. Divya, is RX Propellant going to come back, or because if they're going to come back and do the closing, I want to really thank the panelists for what I think was a wonderful discussion, frank, open, and diverse. But there is common agreement that things are changing between industry and academia collaborations. That's great to see. But so once again, a round of applause for the panelists, please. Thank you so much. I know how busy all of you are, and yet you took the time to come. So thank you. Any last words, Professor Reddy?
I think it's wonderful to have you as moderator, and
thank you, sir.
also the panelists from different disciplines. And on behalf of the FABA Academy, I also thank each and every one of the panelists and more so the moderator and every participant who have joined this webinar, and RX Propellant to join us in this endeavor. Satish, it is yours now.
Yeah, I want to say thank you so much, echoing the same sentiments shared by Professor Ratnakar. I want to take the opportunity to say a very heartfelt thank you to the FABA team for collaborating with us to make this entire project a tremendous success. It was a wonderful conversation. I was taking notes the entire time. And I think that each of the panelists should be thanked also. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us and participating in such a wonderful conversation that can help to shape a lot of lives professionally and also to help to develop a lot of people who are trying to innovate and create their own companies and make it work. Thank you so much to everyone, to the participants also for joining us and giving us your full attention. Thanks and cheers to all.
Thank you so much, Satish. I detect a bit of West Indian accent there. Where are you from?
Yeah, I'm actually from Trinidad and Tobago.
Aha, I told you. Great. Yeah. Thank you so much for sponsoring and supporting this. I think everybody, even, I mean, you can only teach old dog a few tricks, but I learned quite a few tricks today. So thank you all for your time and attention. And shall we, Divya, if it's all right, we can log out now?
Yes, sir, sure. Definitely.
All right. Thank you, everybody.